everybody. Well, today I'm driving the new Porsche Taycan Turbo S. I know, I think I'm the last YouTuber to review this car, but that's fine because I've watched a few of the other YouTubers' reviews and I don't necessarily agree with what they have to say, but more importantly, I think they've missed a lot of important points. You know, as incredible a machine as this is, and this is an engineering marvel, it really is. Porsche have still got a lot of work to do to perfect this car, and I think any prospective owner, especially at this price range, should be aware of some of the shortcomings of this car. So I'll try and cover that in this video as well, because there are some glaring shortcomings of this model, which it seems no one's talking about, or if they are talking about it, I've missed it. Anyway, an hour before I picked up this car, I watched Jacob and Yuri's review of the same model, and they went to pains to explain the performance and how incredible it is. And the thing is, over YouTube, it is really just impossible to express the performance of this car, because I watched their channel, I thought I was ready, and I jumped in this car and I was, oh my God, I wasn't ready. Yeah, it is sensational, the performance of this car. It really catches you by surprise. And I think the best way to explain it is if you have ever been on a very fast roller coaster, like the Accelerator in California in Knott's Berry Farm. That roller coaster feels much like this car. In fact, sounds much like this car as well. You know, the way you're pressed back into your seat from a standstill. This car produces over 1 G of acceleration forces, which is significant. And that's really this car's party trick. And it is as impressive as it sounds. But the thing about massive acceleration is that it's a party trick that wears off pretty quickly. I remember the first time I bought myself a large capacity sport touring motorcycle. It was a Kawasaki ZZR 1200. I bought it about, I don't know, 15, 16 years ago. And that bike, interestingly, had almost identical specifications and performance to this car. It was under 3 seconds, 0 to 60, and its standing quarter mile was almost flat on 10 seconds. So almost the same as this car. And I remember picking up that bike and for the first day or two, opening the throttle and going, oh my goodness, will I ever get used to the power of this bike? It is incredible. But then a few weeks later, I was, I wonder how I can make this bike more powerful. So yes, while this car has Tesla beating performance and acceleration that is mind blowing, it still needs to stand on its own 2 feet in every other way to be a worthwhile car. And in most cases it does. You know, it is a competent sports tourer. And speaking of which, I get a lot of people writing to me asking me, hey Nick, I'm thinking of getting a 911 or a Taycan. Which would you suggest? And I'm quite surprised that people are cross-shopping these two cars, because the Taycan is not a sports car. Let me make this clear. This is not a sports car. This is a Grand Tourer, a GT car, much like the Panamera. And while it's 4 inches shorter than the Panamera is its closest stablemate within the Porsche range. It's just that even if you spend $200,000 on a Panamera getting the Turbo S hybrid, the top of the line, it's nowhere near as fast as this car. Of course, in the Panamera, you've got longer range because it's a gasoline car, and a lot larger trunk space and just generally more room. But yes, I would cross-shop Panameras with Taycans, depending on whether you want the electric, extra acceleration, or you want the extra space and extra range of the Panamera. So how does it drive? Well, it is somewhat of a surreal experience. The way it delivers the power is unlike gasoline cars. It is very linear to the point that as long as it's staying in the same ratio, it does have this 2-speed ratio in the back. And we'll talk a bit more about that later on, because that is part of the problem of this car. And that is that 2-speed ratio gearing is what allows this car to be a Tesla beater. It's getting more out of those electric motors because it has those 2-speed ratios, and it's allowing this car to have the higher top speeds that people that were, say, driving on autobahns would like to have. So it is worthwhile to be the first electric car to have a gearbox, but there are some shortcomings to that as well. But yes, apart from the phenomenal acceleration, it is a beautifully handling car. Now this car has the PDCC, which is the Porsche Dynamic Chassis Control, which I think is unnecessary. It's good in cars like the 911 Targa, which has got a sort of a high center of gravity, and that helps reduce the body roll. But the Taycan, with or without the PDCC, doesn't have a lot of body roll anyway. But you can see it sort of working when I swerve on the highway here. You can see it pushing up, and it just keeps the handling completely flat. But yeah, as I say, not necessary. The handling overall is phenomenal for a 5,200 and something pound car.
Can I help you?
Oh, stop it. Stop it. Why does it keep doing that? And as you'd expect from an electric car, it's beautifully quiet inside. This car also has the $5,000 Burmeister, however you say it, stereo system, which I think is a complete waste of time in the sports cars of Porsches, but in the touring cars like this, maybe it's worth considering. It is extremely loud and extremely clear. It is a beautiful stereo system. It's a lot of money. I don't think I'd ever buy it again. I've had it in one of my cars. But certainly, if you're going to get it, maybe the Taycan's the one to get it in, because it's such a beautifully quiet car. You can really hear the benefit of that amazing $5,000 stereo system. Otherwise, the forward visibility is excellent. The rear visibility is almost non-existent. Side visibility is pretty good as well, due to this B-pillar being further back. Once again, this is a problem in other areas, so I'll talk about that as well. But yeah, overall, it is a beautiful driving experience. You know, I also like the Tesla Model S. It is a lovely car to drive, and they are more similar than dissimilar. The biggest difference between this and the Tesla when driving, I find, is that the Tesla is a little easier because it allows the 1 foot driving. That is, when you take your foot off the accelerator, it does the regenerative braking and slows the car down, and you can pretty much you get used to that very quickly, and you can pretty much drive the Teslas with 1 foot all the time. It's a very nice system. But even on maximum regenerative braking in the Porsche, it makes little to no difference. So you're really driving it like a regular car, which I guess is by design for Porsche. But with electric cars, I think they should be taking advantage of all the technology, including regenerative braking, and maybe that would actually improve the somewhat lackluster range that this car has. Okay, so we're back at my house, and as you might notice, there's some continuity issues with this video. My t-shirt has changed, my gorilla has changed, my glasses have changed, and the weather has changed. I know. What type of professional am I? And speaking of not being a professional, yes, normally in a professional YouTuber's video about the Porsche Taycan, we'd jump into important issues like how to open the recharging ports with your finger, talk about how turbo isn't a good name for an electric car, how the handles open up when you touch them, and the general looks and feel. But we're going to skip over most of that. I do love the looks of this car, and yes, it does stay true to the original concept, including the wheels and the general curves, and it's so distinctive looking. Everybody that looks at the car just really loves it. So Porsche have done a great job in making this a distinctive, beautiful looking car. So thumbs up for the looks, but we're going to skip all that stuff and leave that to other YouTubers, because I want to focus on some of the little quirks of this car. Not that I want to run this car down, because I think it's amazing, but I think future owners of this car should be aware of some of the little oddities about this car that for most people they're never going to notice, but for some people it's really going to have an impact on their ownership experience. So first of all, we'll start with, as I mentioned before, the B-pillar. Now, the B-pillar is nice and far back at the top, but it slopes forward, unlike most cars, down the bottom. And why is this a big deal, Nick? Well, this is all about how you get in and out of the car. This B-pillar is normally in line with the back of the seat in most cars. If you have a look here in my Macan, it lines up nicely with the seat back. So it's easy to get in and out. In this car, you have to be a bit of a gymnast to get your butt around the B-pillar and into the seat. Now, obviously, I'm a kind of fat old man, so it's never going to be easy for me, but I don't think it's easy for anyone. And what I noticed was, this car had 50 miles on it when I got it. It was brand new. Yet it still had noticeable damage on the B-pillar from people scraping their ass past it, both in the driver's side and here in the passenger side, and I think that's why we see hard plastic just here. Other people have commented on this hard plastic, and normally on every other Porsche model out there, you can option this out to be leather all the way around this lower trim, but not on this model. And I think the reason for that is because they've noticed that everybody marks this. So if you put that as leather, it's really going to scratch and show up as leather. So they left it as the most durable material, which is horrible hard plastic, and still it shows up marks. Not only that, because it's so hard to get in and out of this car without scraping yourself on that B-pillar, you're also scraping yourself across the bolster on the seat, much more than you do in other cars. Sure, in a Porsche 911, even the Cayman and Boxster, they're a little tricky to get in and out of, but if you put your leg in first and you get it right, you can keep yourself off those bolsters. Not so in this car. Because of that B-pillar, it is so hard to slide yourself in here. You're damaging that. And you know, to have such an expensive new car with ugly marks and scratches on that hard bit of plastic just looks so out of place. It would drive me nuts. And I think the only way to fix it is to be constantly replacing this piece of plastic. It's so annoying. So watch for that. These cars are very hard to get in and out of, and you're going to have damage on that B-pillar. Very irritating. Next is button ergonomics. Oh, this really irritates me because this is so easy to fix. What I'm talking about, of course, is how Porsche these days are reducing the amount of buttons in their cabins, and I think they've gone way too far. For example, to open the trunk, in every other Porsche, there's just a trunk open button here with the windows. So easy, right? In this car, of course, you have to go into the open and close menu, and here you can open the trunk or open the frunk and then close it again. I guess no big deal, just going into an extra level of menu, but hey, it's so unnecessary, so annoying to have to go into a menu to open things. And that's true of many other parts of this car as well, where it's all menu based, and the menu system on these screens is not that great. Well, it does give a little vibration, you know, to go up and down, you know, even temperature in the car. It's really fiddly, you know, up and down, volume on the radio, really fiddly. It doesn't feel great. It's automation that's gone too far. And speaking of volume, you do have the volume knob on the steering wheel, which is nice. However, for some reason, it's missing track forward button. Now, you might argue there is a programmable button. This little triangle is the programmable button, and in some instances you can program it to forward track with that button, but that doesn't work across Apple CarPlay and some of the other applications. So it's really, I'm so surprised. You see a forward track button in the new 911, the new Panamera, Cayenne. All the other Porsches got a forward track button because it's the most used button in a car, but this car doesn't have forward track. So yeah, all these little oddities with the buttons add up to a general amount of annoyance. And it doesn't just stop at buttons, it's also in things like opening of the center console here, where the button, if you push the seat forward to your normal driving position, the button to open this is down here, around here, and then you're sort of awkwardly trying to get this open to get anything in it. You've got to do a gymnastics act. It just doesn't make any sense. I don't know why they've done this. So yes, button ergonomics, it is a little strange in this car. Next, the climate control system. Oh my goodness. This is a perfect example of over-engineering gone nuts. And I know other people have talked about this, but bear with me because I think it's much worse than people have tried to explain. If you go into the climate menu, you get this nice menu here, which is how you adjust these futuristic vents. Now, for the last 100 years, we've had vents where you just have a slider for moving the slats and a little wheel for opening and closing the vent, and that has worked beautifully. And not only is that a beautiful, elegant solution, but it also sort of tells you the quality of the car you're driving, because if it's a nice smooth operation, obviously it's an upmarket car, and that's part of the enjoyment, that tactile feel of touching objects in the car that move so smoothly and feel high quality is a lovely touch. In this car, we have this new bit of engineering marvel, where you move the vents by moving your finger around on the screen, and then you adjust the slider for how much intensity you want from out of that vent. Which would be fine, sort of, if it worked, but it does not work, of course. Just like the center vent in the Panamera, which I bitched about when I did a Panamera review and hoped that they'd stop at that point. No, they've taken it to the next level and made things so much worse. It is a nice gimmick, I give them that, something to show your passengers, but I feel bad for any passenger in this car that's trying to figure this out, because it really doesn't work. What I'm talking about, of course, is like when I'm driving a car, I want just a light, cool breeze on my face. Simple enough, right? You just normally adjust it and turn the knob up. In this car, you're fiddling around with this, trying to get some breeze on your face, and you notice it never actually works. And I think the reason for that is that deep down in this hole is where the slats are for moving the position of where the air comes out. But because they're so deep in the hole, recessed back there, even if the slat's hard over, it still has to pass up this vent, and by the time it gets up here, it's all just coming out more or less straight. It may just adjust a little bit here or there, but it doesn't have the flexibility of a vent that has slats right at the top like a regular car does. So all of this over-engineering is for naught. It doesn't work. Oh, so irritating. And if you want to pay $1,000 more, you can have this irritating non-functional technology in the rear seat as well, as this car's got. You all sorted back there with your vent, Albert? Yes. I hope this stops. I hope this technology makes it no further than this model car, because it is terrible. It looks fancy, but it is terrible. This is engineering gone mad. Porsche, spend your engineering money elsewhere. This system, this is not an improvement in any way. And finally, it's the high-low ratio for the rear axle, which really makes this car unique. It's the first electric car with sort of a gearbox in it, and that's what allows this car to have that enormous punch of speed when you take off, plus the long legs for top speed, and the ability, as Porsche I'm sure wanted to do, to finally have an electric car that beats Tesla. But the downside of that two-speed transmission in the back is that it's unpredictable. Now, what's interesting about this is that a lot of people don't notice this at all. So for a lot of owners, I don't think this is going to be an issue. But for me, I noticed it straight away. And so I got in contact with a few other owners that I know of, and a few other people that have driven this car a lot. And most of them have said, what are you talking about, Nick? I don't know what you're talking about. I never noticed it. So that's great. Maybe this is a non-issue. But for me, what I noticed it does is when you're cruising on back streets between 30 to 50 miles an hour, it can't really make up its mind whether it should be in low ratio or high ratio. And now in a normal gasoline car, you can tell what gear the car's in. You can see the revs it's doing. Often it tells you what gear it's in. You get a feel for it, so you know, oh, I'm in third, I don't need to put too much gas to speed up, or I'm in top gear, I need to put a bit more gas down to speed up. In this car, there's no clues. It's a silent car. There's no indication of what gear, high, low it's in. So at 1 minute, you might need an inch of accelerated travel to get yourself moving. Whereas another moment, if it's suddenly in the low ratio, you need just half an inch of accelerated pedal. And the outcome of this is that it's very hard to drive this car smoothly around the back roads, because it's constantly changing the game on you. 1 minute, you're going, oh yeah, I need a bit of gas, and next minute, oh no, I don't need any gas. I nearly rear-ended that guy. And you'll notice sometimes it goes, oh, I need to be in low ratio and I'm in high, and it just pauses for just a second to get that change done. Now, no big deal, I guess, but this is an electric car. I thought gearbox issues were a thing of the past, and here they are, come back to haunt us. So I'll be interested to hear from people that have driven this car or own this car, where they notice what I noticed with the inconsistencies with that rear gearbox. Maybe it's not a thing, but for me, I found that very irritating. And when you add up all of these things, that B-pillar, the buttons, the stupid vents, the gearbox, you know, for most people, this is a non-event, because this is a quirky car, and the overall experience is still excellent. This is still such a beautiful machine to drive. It is so fast, it is so smooth, it handles so well for a 5,000 pound car, and of course, it is such a step above Tesla in fit and finish inside that you can see why people are paying for the Porsche name to buy this car over a Tesla. So it is a great car. I just wanted people to be aware of these little quirks so that it doesn't ruin their day when they find, oh, it's very annoying how it does that, and I've just spent $200,000+ on this car. But overall, amazing. It is an incredible machine to drive. I'm very excited for the future of Porsche electric cars. I'm looking forward to the, I'm looking forward to the SUVs having electric models. I think utility cars with electric drivetrains are the future as well, particularly with solid state battery technology coming out soon. That'll give cars 500 to 800 miles range. That's going to be amazing. That's going to be totally game changing. So I think the future for electric cars is very, very bright. So I'm very supportive of this model. It is something else. It is totally different than anything else you've ever driven. You have to drive it in order to experience what a sensation this is. And I think anyone that owns this car, any passenger you have, anyone you take in this car is going to be totally blown away with the technology, the smoothness, the acceleration, etc., etc. So don't be put off just because of a few quirks. That's the way things are. It is overall still a magnificent piece of machinery. Of course, we have to ask ourselves, who buys these cars? Well, of course, it's people that want to show off that they want a cool car, but still want to pretend that they're saving the world. That's what a very fast electric car is all about. And fair enough, fair enough. I think if I was buying one of these myself, I would, of course, get it in the Mamba Green, because that's my favorite Porsche color at the moment. I'll probably get these wheels, and I'll probably get a two-tone interior as well. Yeah, it is a lovely place to be inside this car. It has a beautiful fit and finish inside, a real step up from the Teslas. But overall, you know, I love the Teslas as well. They just do things differently. So, you know, one car isn't a fit for everybody. I'm glad that other manufacturers are now starting to catch up with Tesla. Maybe not overtake. Tesla always seem to be setting the standard, and that's great. I love to see an American car company doing so well. Anyway, that's it from me. And just a reminder, if you're looking to buy any Porsche, no matter what model, whether it's the Taycan Turbo S or any other, right down to the base Macan, and you're having trouble getting a decent discount, feel free to email me on the address below. My local dealer has preset discounts for my viewers, which often works out quite well, regardless of which part of the country you're in. They'll ship it out to you. Yeah, so if you're struggling to get a good discount from your local dealer, give me a shout and I'll hook you up with them and they can see what they can do. That's worked out so well for hundreds of my viewers, and I like to support my local dealer because they're always so good to me. And it works out well for you guys. You know, everybody wins. Anyway, so thanks for watching, everybody. Goodbye from Albert and I, and stay safe out there. I hope everyone's doing as well as they can with this virus crisis, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye then. And if you're wondering where to acquire the ridiculous t-shirts that I wear in my videos, they're all here in my store, all your favorites, including offensive stamps and my rapid dry towels as well. Yes, Nick Murray t-shirts, being a little inappropriate since 2016.